Hey guys, welcome back to another day of Bible reading. Have you ever been caught between a rock and a hard place? Have you ever been in a situation that felt like there is no way out of this? Nothing I say can improve the situation in any way. Like, have you ever felt like if I do this, people are going to cry and die or whatever, and if I do the opposite, the same thing is going to happen? So, what do you usually do in those situations? Do you choose loyalty to be loyal to your family, your friends, or the closest people that are by this, or you choose whatever outcome would suit you the most? So, yeah, before we get into today's reading, yeah, let's. Last time we learned about how Absalom and his people finally got their army in order, and yeah, and one of Absalom's first recruit killed himself because he saw that this was a suicide mission, and he also didn't want to face David because he knew that this was not going to work out. And yeah, but that's where we left it off last time. And now we are going to read 2 Samuel chapter 18 verse 1 until verse 33. What would you do if you were caught between a rock and a hard place? Let's go. Then David mustered the men who were with him and set over them commanders of thousands and commanders of hundreds. So if you remember that finally they crossed the Jordan. Now they're on the other side of the Jordan because Absalom is pursuing them. So now David is finally choosing to be proactive in all of this. Because remember, he was fleeing. Like from the moment that he found out that Absalom is pursuing him, he chose to flee. Now, like there were reasons, but the fact of the matter is he chose to flee. And now finally, we get to a point where David is like, you know what, guys, let's gather together and finally do something about it. So it must have been finally reassuring to see your king finally coming into his leadership role. Because we all know that no one wants a passive leader. No one wants a leader who is led by his emotions or controlled by the people. So before I get ahead of myself, now verse 2. And David sent out the army of 1/3 under the command of Job, 1/3 under the command of Abishai, the son of Zuriah, Job's brother, and 1/3 under the command of Ittai the Gittite. And the king said to the men, I will go out with you. So remember, David's men, they're not everyone left with David. So these are some of the men that left with David. The three commanders, Job, Abishai, and Ittai. And David put them in their roles like, yeah, okay, let's go. I'm also ready. But then they were like, yeah. Verse 3. But then the men said, you shall not go out, for if we flee, they will not care about us. If half of us die, they will not care about us. But you are worth 10,000 of us. Therefore, it is better that you send us help from the city. So, yes, David was between a rock and a hard place. Absalom is his son, but his same son wants to take the kingdom from him. So this, like, if it was not his son, he certainly would have done something about this. He never would have left the post. But because it is his son, he's like dragging it as much as he can. So, but now finally he is like, okay, fine, let me do something. It is so annoying and tiring and all of those things if you just choose to let things happen and be like, whatever happens, happen. I will make my decision from that. So it must have felt very reassuring to finally see the king saying, let's go, guys, and I'm going with you. But they were like, no, we understand that you are the king. You are our king, and no one is better than you. But you would be an impedance to us. So you would get in our way. So why rather not just you stay here? How about you just stay here and send help from the city, because your life is worth more than most of ours. So they like, now they're like, yeah, we're all like, when you're saving a good king, you're always ready to lose your life. But yeah, so now it's like, now finally everyone is reassured and ready to get into it. And it would be difficult to fight along someone that you're trying to protect. So now imagine you have your child right here, and then you have people trying to fight you. As much as you want to fight those people, it would be hard to have to consider your child, like to make sure that they are safe and not in all of this thing. So now they are saying, David, we don't want to be worried about you there. We know that it is our duty to protect you. You are our king. But having you there would cost us more than not having you there. Like, as much as, yes, kings are supposed to go out and fight with their people, but having you there means now we have to consider you in every decision that we make. But if you are not there, we don't have to worry about anyone else. I think that makes sense. That makes sense. So now, verse 4, the king said to them, whatever seems best to you, I will do. So it kind of shows that David also understood where they were coming from. I don't believe this is him speaking out of fear, because sometimes we think when someone chooses to retreat, it's out of fear. But now David is like, you know what? I understand. As much as I need to be active in all of this, you will not do your best if you have to worry about me. So I understand. Whatever you say seems good, and I will do it. So the king stood at the side of the gate, while all the army marched out by hundreds and by thousands. So everyone is leaving. They are marching out, hundreds and thousands of them. So the king is standing on the side of the gate now, and so just watching everyone, and as they leave, the hundreds, the thousands, and now verse 5, and the king ordered Job and Abishai and Ittai. Remember, these are the three commanders. Deal gently for my sake with the young man Absalom. Like, basically deal gently with Absalom for my sake. I understand he is your enemy, but he is also my son. So this is the first situation where, like, it becomes clear that the king is caught between a rock and a hard place. The king's enemy is now the son. His own son is now his own enemy. Like, what do you choose in this? Like, this is the son that you love, but now he is seeking your life. So he's asking his commanders, like, please deal gently with my son. I know he's your enemy, but he's also my son. And yeah, so as much as David knew that he was fighting for his kingdom, he was fighting for his people, and he needed to keep all of that together. He also knew that he was fighting against his own son. His own son, the son that he actually loved, and which led him to be compassionate to his enemy. Like, as a bystander, someone who is not actively involved in all of this, you'd feel like, I understand. I mean, I understand both situations. I understand both situations, but it kind of sucks. It would suck. It really would suck for you to have to get your son killed or kill your son for the benefit of everyone, for the sake of everyone else. Funny, that is what God did. ah, like it is so hard for us to conceive the idea that I would sacrifice my child for my people, for the community, for the world. It is so hard for us to conceive that idea, but God did that through Christ, his only son. And we can have two, we can have three, four, 10, how many, no matter how many kids we need. But God gave his only son. And even when he gave his only son, the son was not like, okay, fine, I'll just do it. Like he went through everything, like the physical body went through, but still he chose to serve and submit to the Father. So this kind of is the correlation between the two, that David knew that he was going to lose his son so that the rest of his people can be good. And the father also knew that for the rest of his children to be good, he had to give his son. His only son had to die for all of us. So though Absalom was not dying for us, he died for those people. But it was not for them. But yeah, I hope you guys understand. But Jesus died for us. So I hope you understand. Technically, Absalom did not die for them to live, because if David had died, Absalom still would have been king, but he would have destroyed the people. But for us, if Jesus had not died, humanity, all of mankind would have been destroyed. We would not be here. So it's not really the same, but I can see the correlation. So yeah. Yeah, verse 5, David saying, deal gently for my sake with the young man Absalom. Like the English back then. Ugh. Deal gently for my sake with the young man Absalom. Deal gently with Absalom for my sake. And all the people who heard when the king gave the orders to all the commanders about Absalom. So everyone heard what the king said, because he didn't just call them, say, Itai, 1, 2, 3, come to me, let's huddle up and talk. He said while everyone was going out, Itai, Itai, Abishai, and Job, deal gently with Absalom for my sake. So everyone heard that. I think that was his tactic, to make sure that everyone heard it, not just the the commanders. He wanted to make sure that everyone heard it. So it's clear. It's clear. And now, so the army went out in the field against Israel, and the battle was fought in the forest of Ephraim. And yeah, they're all out fighting in the forest of Ephraim. And the men of Israel were defeated there by the servants of David. And the loss there was great on that day, 20,000 men. So, like, remember, they got men from the city to fight against David. And now they're in the forest of Ephraim. And about 20,000 already died in the forest. And if you remember back in verse 17, let's go back to chapter 17. Moreover, Ahithophel said to Absalom, let me choose 12,000 men, and I will arise tonight. So, and go fight David. So, Ahithophel thought 12,000 should be a good number for us to defeat David. But this is showing that even after they got more than the 12,000, 20,000 have already died. So the 12 would have been gone ages ago. So as much as we thought that, what's that guy's name? David Spy. As much as, yeah, we felt like, yeah, but his advice, yeah, Hushai. So Hushai's advice was good, as much as it felt like it was a delay tactic. Because now Absalom saw that they got where they thought David was going to be, and they didn't find David there. David had crossed over to the other side of the Jordan. So, Hushai was right. And now they got more than 20,000, and then they've already lost 20,000. It was a good idea to get more than 12,000. So as the story develops, you start to see why it made sense and how it was so easy for other things to be believed or to work out that way. But then now they are in the forest, and 20,000 men have already died. The battle spread over the fence of all the country, and the forest devoured more people than the sword. So more people died in the forest than were killed by the sword. It's kind of giving God used nature to help David. It's giving that because the people like were the ones who had the swords, and they were actively pursuing all the people, all the enemies. But more people died in the forest. The forest devoured more people, meaning that God literally got involved and used the forest to help to help David. Like, interesting. The nice thing is that when you are a child of God, God can use anything to help you. So it is nice to see when he does that with some of his children. So interesting. I wouldn't mind if God did that with me too. Imagine you going out for a walk and something happens, and then suddenly trees do some things, and then you're like, thank you, God. Like, it is so nice to literally see the hand of God at work in your life. So let me not get and also sad thing is that now 20,000, more than 20,000 people lost their lives for a stupid cause. Yes, it was a prophecy coming to fruition, but it was stupid. If everyone had just opened their eyes and saw that Absalom had no chance, but they were like, no, maybe, he might be a different king. But yeah, now more people lost their lives for stupid reasons. And Absalom happened to meet the servant of David. Absalom was riding on his mule, and the mule went under a thick branches of a great oak, and his head caught fast in the oak, and he hung suspended between the heaven and the earth, while the mule that was under him went off. So Absalom was on a mule donkey, and then riding. He sees David's servant. I think I was like, ooh, let me go back. But then as he goes back, the mule runs, and then Absalom's head gets caught up in a branch. So basically now he's just hanging. I don't know why he didn't try to like pull himself out of it, but yeah, he was just there hanging like, ooh, yeah. And then his donkey went off, and he was just left there hanging. Another instant where God used nature to help David. The mule hung Absalom, the tree held him, the mule left. Absalom was there hanging, like just like a, what is that? The thing that Mexican heat. Yeah, for birthdays and stuff. Piñata, yeah. Just like a piñata, just hanging, waiting there to, yeah. and yeah, verse 10, and a certain man saw it and told Job, behold, I saw Absalom hanging in an oak. So this young man remembered that David said be gentle with Absalom. Deal nicely with my son. So now, as a servant, if David had not said that, he probably would have done something. But because he remembered the words of David, he's like, no, wait. And behold, verse 11, Job said to the man who told him, what? You saw him? Why then did you not strike him there to the ground? Why didn't you do anything about it there? He's there waiting. So why don't you do something? And the man said, David, this is Job still speaking. I would have been glad to give you 10 pieces of silver and a belt. Like, I would have honored you. If you had done something, I would have honored you. So, I mean, like, yeah, naturally, you would be rewarded, but there's not a natural, like a normal circumstance. So, yeah. But the man said to Job, even if I felt in my hand the weight of the 1,000 pieces of silver, I will not reach out my hand against the king's son. For in our hearing the king commanded you and Abishai and Ittai, for my sake, protect the young man Absalom. So I understand. He's saying, even if I felt the weight, I felt how much that money was in my hand, I would not have disobeyed the king, because we all heard him say, deal gently with my son, be kind to my son. So I don't want to go against blatantly disobey the king. I don't want to go against the words of the king. So this is why I chose to not do anything about it. On the other hand, if I had dealt treacherously against his life, and there is nothing hidden from the king. So basically, the king would have found out there is nothing hidden from the king. Then you yourself would have stood aloof. So he's saying, like, if I had done something, you could have used it against me, because there is nothing that we can hide from the king. We cannot hide anything from the king. Eventually, he will find out, and you wouldn't have protected me. So which kind of shows that he doesn't really trust Job in this situation. I don't know if there was anything that could have led to him to believe that, but it's also giving, I would rather protect myself. I would rather obey the king than kill his son. So I think this servant kind of understands where David is coming from, the rock and a hard place. This time the servant chose, like we have the second person. Remember, the first was David choosing to either go against his son, kill his son, or protect his son. And then he was like, you know what? He's choosing to be my enemy, but he's still asking his servants to be gentle with him. And now the second person is this servant who's like, yeah, I saw him. I could have killed him, and if everything worked out, you probably would have given me the money. But even then, you would have probably come out and told the king, and I would have been punished for that. Or I could just leave him and tell you, and rock and a hard place. But he chose to be loyal to the king instead of choosing to be loyal to himself and get money in return. Because remember, Job was saying that he would have paid him. I would have paid him. But the servant is saying, like, even if I felt the money in my hand, I felt the weight of the money in my hand, I would not disobey the king. I would not disobey my God. He's not saying God, but I can see the correlation here. I would not disobey God for anything that you have to offer. So that's commendable. He chose to be loyal instead of choosing to benefit. David also was like, let me help my people, but he chose a safe position. So yeah, and verse 14, Job said, I will not waste my time like this with you. And he took 3 javelins in his hand and thrust them into the heart of Absalom while he still hung alive on the oak. So I kind of like how decisive Job is, because sometimes I know I do, that sometimes we tend to just delay and think about it a bit more, but we are delaying. And Job is like, you know what? I'm not going to play your king. Just took 3 javelins and two. And yeah, Absalom was just hanging there. I think if they did not do anything, he probably would have hung there. I don't know for how long. Could have died. I mean, but Job was like, I'm not going to play your game. I'm not here to try to reassure you. You had a duty and you chose not to do. And then now we have Job, like I don't know if we can say he was caught between a rock and a hard place, because it was kind of easy for him to be like, no, as much as I know that the king asked us to deal gently with Absalom, I know what the king also went through. So he was also caught between a rock and a hard place. He chose to protect his king. Now, so far, the theme is rock hard place, choose loyalty. Rock hard place, choose loyalty. Rock hard place, choose loyalty. Loyalty to your people, to the closest people to you, either family, friends, or king, or whatever. Whatever role they play in your life, you choose loyalty to the people that were there before all of this. So far, that is what is happening. As much as Job had always been quick to fight to the sword, you know, if you remember in the previous verses, there was a guy from the Benjamin tribe. He was cursing David, and Abishai was like, you know what, let me just kill this man. And David said, no, I'm not going to deal with him the way that your brothers deal with your situation. So the way they deal with the situation is that the quickest way to deal with it is just by eliminating the person or the situation. So that's why I'm like, maybe it wasn't really that hard for Job, because I feel like he kinda gets a thrill from killing people. So, but yeah, Job, he chose to be loyal instead of choosing to protect the son's king. He chose to be loyal to the king. And even though he was not going to gain anything from this, yeah, he knew that he was risking it. But okay, let's continue. Yeah. Then Job, oh yeah, verse 15. And then 10 young men, Job's armor bearers, surrounded Absalom and struck him and killed him. So remember, it's Job with 3 javelin, and now 10 other young men coming. So basically 13 strikes, and he's dead, he's gone. Now verse 16, then Job blew the trumpet, and the troops came back from pursuing Israel, for Job restrained them. So obviously the trumpet announces something, and now we are in battle, we're in war, so people are pursuing people, and then when the trumpet is sounded, then people are like, okay, it means something, it means it's over now. In this case, it means it's over. And also in the case when Jesus comes back, it's over. Sounding the trumpets that now announcing that Jesus is coming back, it's over. So no need to fight anymore. And I left my markers. No need to fight anymore, and I'm happy because I got another revelation. So that's why I wanted to highlight it. But yeah, so no need to keep fighting, because now it is over. Same when Jesus comes back. No need to keep fighting. Jesus is back. Jesus is coming back. So it's over. So yay. Now verse 17. So everyone is coming back because the Job got all of them. And they took Absalom and threw him into a pit in the forest and raised and raised over him a very great heap of stones, and all Israel fled, every one to his own home. So Absalom is killed. They dug a very deep pit and just threw him in there. So and then just covered him with lots and lots of rocks, and then everyone went home. So here Absalom dies as the king's enemy. He is seen as the king's enemy. He is not seen as the king's son. Because if he had died as the king's son, he would have had an honorable wedding. There would have been whatever's like kind of celebration, mourning, the community mourning. But now just dumped into this deep pit and then covered with stones, and then that's it. No honor, nothing. So he started as the son of the king, the closest you can be to the king, and then he ended up as the enemy, the furthest you can be from the king. As much as that was also God's doing, because remember, God said through the prophet Nathan that he would rise up his own son to come against David, and this is the son. As much as God said that, I don't know where I was going with this. So, yeah. Now Absalom in his lifetime had taken up for himself the pillar that is in the king's valley, for he said, I have no son to keep my name in remembrance. And he called the pillar after his own son, his own name. It is called Absalom's monument to this day. So Absalom did not have sons, he only had daughters. If you remember, didn't he have sons? Because I remember that he had a daughter who was named Tamar. I remember. Okay. So I remember that he had a child who he named Tamar after his own daughter. I mean his own sister. And I thought he also had sons, but yeah, he didn't. He didn't have sons to carry on his name, and so he made a monument, and after himself, and named it Absalom's monument. It's I'm so happy that we don't have to live in those days anymore, where you have to fight for your name. You know, yeah. Absalom is gone, and the king doesn't know yet, but the trumpets have been sounded, and the rest of Israel now went back, scattered back to their homes, because now there's no cause to fight for anymore. So everyone is just going back and retreating. So now we are in verse 19. David hears of Absalom's death. Then Ahimaaz, if you remember, Ahimaaz was the son of the Levites who were taking care of the Ark of the Covenant, and he was also sent in between. I mean, him and Jonathan, they were sent between to communicate what was going on in the previous chapter. Remember the woman who was at the well and protected them. So then Ahimaaz the son of Zadok said, let me run and carry the news to the king that the Lord has delivered him from the hand of his enemy. So far, Ahimaaz sees Absalom as David's enemy. Of course, he is David's enemy. And yeah. And Job said to him, you are not to carry news today. You may carry news another day, but today you shall not carry no news, because the king's son is dead. So Ahimaaz wanted to get recognition for it. So he was not considering where the king was coming from, the king's feelings, or the situation at all. He just knew that if I quickly run and tell the king would be like, finally my enemy is dead. Because remember, he said, let me go and tell the king that the king's enemy is dead. But Job is like, no, you're not going to do that today, because the king's son is dead. No, here it shows that Job sees that as much as Absalom was the enemy, he's also the king's son. So the rock and the hard place again. The rock and the hard place. So it just keeps reoccurring in this chapter. Then Job said to the Cushite, go tell the king what you have seen. The Cushite bowed down before Job and ran. Why the Cushite and not Ahimaaz? The Cushite was just there to do his job, like as a messenger, to just go and deliver the message to the king. Your son is dead. We have killed the enemy. But Ahimaaz wanted to, I felt like bragging in a way, like wanted recognition, like, yes, we did it. He's dead. He's dead. Let's celebrate. So he was oblivious to the situation that the king was in. His zeal was way too much, and it would have come as a disrespect to the king. So Job protected Ahimaaz here, but Ahimaaz didn't care. He just wanted to get his recognition. He just wanted to get close to the king and bring good news to the king. But then Ahimaaz the son of Zadok said to Job, come what may, let me also run after the Cushite. And Job said, why will you run, my son, seeing that you will not have a reward for the news? See, suspicious. Why? So it seems like so far the hard place and the rock that Ahimaaz finds himself, he is choosing himself. He is choosing pleasure. He's choosing recognition. I want to be seen. I want to be the one that tells the king. I want to receive the honor for telling the king. But everyone is like, man, you don't see what's going on. You only see one side of this. Why are you so insistent on this? You don't see that you're going to have the king and you're not going to get a reward. So why are you insisting? But he says, come what may. He said, I will run. So he said to him, run. Then Ahimaaz ran by the way of the plain and outran the Cushite. So remember, the Cushite was already running, but he is running, I know I have to go quite far, so I'm not going to use all of my energy right now. But Ahimaaz is like, no, this is my chance. This is my chance, finally. Yeah, but yeah, so he outruns. The zeal is way too much, especially considering what had just happened. But he is oblivious of all of that. So he outruns the Cushite. Now David was sitting between the two gates, and the watchman went up to the roof of the gate by the wall, and when he lifted up his eyes and looked, he saw a man running alone. So it means David was here waiting at the gate for this entire time. He didn't want to assume that the kingdom is mine again. So let's go back. No, he waited here patiently to see how everything turns out. And the watchman went to the top of the gate. So obviously this means that it's a wall gate, so he can stand at the top and see. And he saw a young man running. Then the watchman called out and told the king. And the king said, if he is alone, there is news in his mouth. So if he's running alone, then he has some news to share. He has something to say to us. But yeah, and he drew nearer and nearer. So they can see that, yes, he's running alone. So they're like, oh, okay, he's bringing good news. He's bringing good news, because, like, remember, if as one person running, it just means official news, like good news coming to the king. But if it is many people running, it's like something is horribly wrong. So when it's one person running, you're always optimistic, thinking maybe it's good news, an invitation, or something worked out. But when it's a lot of people running, you're leaning towards something wrong. Now, verse 26, the watchman saw another man running, and the watchman called to the gate and said, see, another man running. See, another man running. Although the king said, he also brings news. So both these people are bringing news. They're not saying good news or bad news. It's just news. I wonder if David heard the trumpet, because everyone heard the trumpet, and those, some like Absalom's people ran home, and David's people now regrouped with Job. Did David not hear the trumpet? Because, or maybe he was just thinking that maybe Absalom was just captured. Absalom captured means that David still had a chance to talk with him or punish him, or maybe that's what he was thinking. Or he was just wishing that hopefully, as in life, we tend to be optimistic. Then the watchman said, I think, verse 27, the watchman said, I think the running of the first is like the running of Ahimaaz, the son of Zadok. And the king said, he is a good man and comes with good news. So now imagine, you see how the king would have been devastated to hear from Ahimaaz that Absalom is actually dead, because he regards Ahimaaz in a highlight, like good man, good, like I trust him. He obviously wouldn't be coming here to tell me bad news. This is my guy, this is my boy, like, yeah, him and I are good. So the king is like, good news, I see him, then it's good news. But Ahimaaz didn't see it from that perspective. He was just thinking, yes, we got the king's enemy. Yes, I'm going to, I want to be the one to tell him. Yeah, that is a selfish. He was caught between the hard place and the rock, and then he chose the I want recognition. I want to be seen. I want to be honored. Even though I didn't technically do anything to him, but I want to be the messenger to give the good news to the king. Then Ahimaaz cried out to the king, all is well. And he bowed before the king with his face to the earth and said, blessed be the Lord your God, who has delivered us, the young men who raised their hand against my lord the king. So he gets there, it's like, 안녕하세요. Yes, all is well. We are happy. All is well. And bow to the face, and blessed be the Lord your God who has delivered us the men. So he's not saying Absalom is dead. He's just saying Absalom has been caught, basically. He is in our custody. So basically, yeah, nothing bad. So this is what David probably heard and he was hoping for. And now in verse 29, the king said, is it well with the young man Absalom? Ahimaaz answered, when Job sent the messenger, when Job sent the king's servant, your servant, I saw a great commotion, but I don't know what it was. So now he's changing his story. He knows what happened, but he now gets to the king. The king asked him, so how's Absalom? Like you said that, yes, the Lord has delivered my enemy. So how is my son? Now he sees David, like he sees David for the father now. He's not seeing David for the king who was fighting for his kingdom. He's not seeing him for the king who was fighting against his enemy. He's seeing him for the father who was trying to save his son's life. Now it finally clicks to him why Job was like, no, why do you want to go? Why are you so emphatic about this? Why? And he's like, oh yeah, when I left, there was a commotion, so I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened. So he's still leaving it there. Basically, the king that still doesn't know what happened. Have a message delivered. And the king said, turn aside and stand here. So he turned aside and stood. So yeah, just come and stand on the side. Because now remember, they know that the second guy is coming too. The second servant is also running towards him. And verse 31, David's grief. And behold, the Cushite came, and the Cushite said, good news, my lord, the king, for the Lord has delivered you this day from the hand of all who rose up against you. So same intro. You can't just say, hey, the Lord has finally done it. Your enemy is dead. Like, you have to be considerate and compassionate. So but still praise the king. So he comes in that tone like, yay, the Lord has done it. Yeah, your enemies are no more. The king said to the Cushite, is it well with the young man Absalom? Like, I understand that you're saying, yes, the Lord has delivered my enemies, but is it well with Absalom, my son? Like, David's heart plays like, guys, I know he's an enemy to the king, but he's my son. I know he's my enemy, but he's my son. Like, and may the is it well with Absalom? And the Cushite answered, may the enemies of my lord the king and all who rise up against you forever be like the young man. What do you mean? Those who rise up against me, may they be like the young man. What do you mean? I mean, it's kind of good that when all of this was delivered, it was in words and not reading. Because I am reading, I'm kind of delaying. And if you don't know the story, you're like, what do you mean? Just get to the point. Okay, calm down. And the king was deeply moved and wept to the chamber. And went up to the chamber of the gate and wept, and he wept, and he said, oh, my son Absalom, would I have died instead of you, oh Absalom, my son. He's not saying my enemy. He's not saying enemy to the king. Like, as much as he knew that his son went against him, but he was still his son. As much as he wants to kill me, he is still my son. The love. So that's it for today. We have David's heart place and rock. His son, his kingdom, his people. He chose his people, his kingdom, but he still considered his son. He still asked for them to be considerate of him. And then the servant was like, kill the king, the enemy of the king, or save the king's son. He chose to save the king's son. Even though they are the same person, he chose to save the king's son. And Job, honor the king, what he said, or protect the king. He chose to protect the king. Eventually, the king would be honored in his protection. He made sure that the king lives and he is honored. As much as all of those people rose up against him, he is still king. And now Ahimaaz, tell the king, like, bring the good news to the king, or like get rewards, recognition, be seen, or understand the king, like respect. At first he was like, no, I want recognition, I want this. And then later I was like, you know what, that was selfish of me. Let me wait for the one person who's supposed to come and tell you, then they will be more sensitive. Because he saw that the king saw him in much better light. Like, He's a good man, so obviously he wouldn't tell me bad news. And then he saw the king and he chose loyalty. He was like, you know what? The reward is not as important as the loyalty. Even though he was not going to get rewarded, he was going to get recognition. But it was like, no, that's not as important as being compassionate to the king and recognizing what he's going through. So at the end of it all, seems like everyone always chooses loyalty. Rock, hard place. Loyalty. Everyone seems to choose loyalty to the people that they care about, the people that they love. And even if sometimes it might seem like a bad thing, like in the case of Job actually killing him, but it is for the king's sake. If he had not done it, the king would have forgiven him again. He would have done, like, it would have been another long thing. But he was like, let's just finish this here. We are done. We are done. So in all of that too, in Christ, hard place, rock. I know Christ is rock. I mean, he's the rock of our salvation, the rock of our foundation. So Christ is a rock anyway. But in this metaphor, Christ caught between the hard place, facing death, do all of these things. Remember, Christ is innocent in all of this. God is clean, pure, holy, and sanctified in all of this. But we are the problem, disrespecting, always coming, like always trying to destroy. Every like a child, every time I see us as human race, I see how we are so immature in everything. Have you ever seen a 1-year-old or a 2-year-old thinking that I got this all, I understand this, I got this all under control, but they don't know what they are talking about. And you as the adult, as the parent, you're like, you don't know what you're talking about, so stop it. So every time I think about Christ's love, I see how we are immature. Even in our maturity, we are still immature, ignorant, stupid, and all those bad things. But Christ still chose love. He chose love, loyalty to the Father. Like he knew. Remember, in the beginning, the word Bereshit, in the beginning, it means that in the beginning, when all of this was made, it was made on the condition that Christ will come and die for us. God knew that we would be doing all of this, sinning against him and doing all of these horrible things. But the condition for life to be made on this earth was that we needed a savior. We needed a savior, and Jesus is that savior. Jesus is that savior who was sent by the Father. Remember, the Father knows. The Father knows everything, and he knew that even as he made us, we were going to disobey him and, be selfish, childish, and all of those stupid things. But he was still like, you know what? I'll do this with you. I'll do this for you. So if you are caught between a rock and a hard place, choose God. The hard place or the rock, whatever goes with God, God would never mislead you. He would never mislead you. He will never lead you to temptation. So whatever rock and hard place that you find yourself caught in, choose God. Whatever sides aligns with God, God's word, choose God. And that's it for today, ladies and gentlemen. We'll see you all next time. Remember to spend time with Christ yourself. Read the word. This is Christ in book form. And he came in the physical form, but left us the book form so that we can get to know him and spend time with him. This is your chance. So when he comes back, you have to know. Like, remember, the Bible even says that there will always be people. There will be people that say they are God, they are the Messiah, they are claiming to be Jesus himself, and people will fall for that. So you don't want to be a child of God who claims you know God, but you don't know him. So take your time, spend time in the Word, and get to know God, so that even if the enemy comes, at least the counterfeits in your life, you will know that this is not God. Know God for yourself. That's all I'm asking you to do. And I love you guys, and I'll see you next time. Have a good week. Bye.